Welcome back. We are pleased to be joined this morning by CLINT SHRUM, who is a candidate in the Grundy County Sheriff's race. Welcome.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you with us
Glad
this
to be here.
morning.
Appreciate the opportunity.
We would love to ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
We'd like to have the viewers and voters get to know you just a little
Sure.
bit. And of course, there are some issues that we'd like to discuss
Absolutely.
with you. We love to start with all candidates with a sort of get to know you question. So if you would please tell our viewers about yourself, where you're from, where you live, and tell us about your family and what your current occupation is.
Absolutely. Well, I live in Tracy City. I've lived there all of my life on the property that I was actually raised on. I'm 41 years old, be 42 in a few days. Married to my wife for 19 years, got a 12-year-old daughter. And right now I work for the Governor's Highway Safety Office as a part of a grant that's given to the University of Tennessee.
All right. And tell us about your education and your previous work experience, please, where you went to school and what jobs you have held up to the current position.
Absolutely. Well, I am a Grundy County High School graduate. I graduated in 1990, so I'm a Yellow Jacket. Went to work for the Tracy City Police Department in 1990 as a reserve officer, and from there I was given a job as a dispatcher and a jailer. And in 1998, I had the opportunity to go to the Winchester Police Department. And I was there 8 years. I started out as a patrol officer, went up to corporal, made sergeant, evidence custodian, grant administrator, and was offered a job with the Governor's Highway Safety Office in 2006. And it was a good opportunity, an opportunity to advance my career. And so I took that opportunity, and I've been there ever since.
Okay. Have you ever worked on a political campaign before, run for office, held an elected or appointed office, or worked for an elected official?
I have not. Of course, I'm working for the Governor's Highway Safety Office now, but we work through the University of Tennessee, so it's not a direct connection to the Governor's office. We're on a grant, but I've never worked on a campaign or worked on a local campaign.
Okay. So what made you decide to run for this office?
I've been asked that question a lot. There was a lot of factors that helped me decide that. I thought about running in 2010, but the timing wasn't right. I just didn't feel like I had accomplished everything that I need to accomplish at the Governor's Highway Safety Office. So I stayed there to get more resources, to get more experience. When I was here in Tracy before, I was a young officer, didn't have any experience. So going to Winchester gave me more experience. Being at the Governor's Highway Safety Office, I was able to add to my experience and then start getting resources that I feel like will be valuable to our county if I'm elected. So being able to bring those resources here, seeing the ups and downs of our county and knowing what I have got the ability to bring to the county helped me decide to run. Plus, I travel a lot, and I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and so those people who've raised children know that those teen years are crucial, and I wanted to be at home a little bit with my family and my daughter. So that was some of the deciding factors that helped me run for sheriff.
Yeah, she'll be a teenager here in a few minutes.
Scary thought, scary thought.
Indeed, I've had one.
Yeah.
Tell us what qualifies you to hold the office of sheriff if you're elected.
Absolutely. Well, I'm experienced and I'm certified through the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Officers Association. I've worked in some supervisory capacities. I've never been a chief. I've never worked for a sheriff's office. But I believe that I've got the leadership experience, and I believe I've got the qualifications, and I believe I'm a responsible individual. Right now I deal with about $1.3 million of budget money. So I know how to obtain grant funding, and I feel like I know how to lead. So those are some of the things that I feel like qualify me. I've got all kinds of training experience, instructorships in that. Plus I know the people around here. And I know the places around here. I know how to get to Flat Branch and Chiggertown Road and Deer Run. I mean, I know where those places are. I know where Besttown Road and Wanamaker Road and Hubbard's Cove and Burris Cove, I know where those places are located, and I know people there. And I believe having those relationships just makes me a little more qualified to hold the office of sheriff.
Okay. If you're elected, what would your priorities be as the Grundy County Sheriff?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I said this from the onset, and I still stand by it, that fighting prescription drug abuse and fraud is a top priority. And I know that there's users there, but I also know that there's people who are pushing it illegally. And we need to deal with those things. That has been a top priority. It will still be a top priority. Another top priority is making the sheriff's office a community-oriented policing agency, a customer service agency. Not everybody that deals with the sheriff's office is a criminal. Some people just need services rendered to them. And I want us to be able to do that with pleasant professionalism. That's what I'm looking for. And I also want to partner with programs that we already have in place that offer residential resources instead of reinventing the wheel. Places like Sethra, the Grundy Logger Community Center, the Grundy Housing Authority, Meadowood Hillcrest Apartments, the Trace City Business Club, the Rotary Club. Partner with those people to see what we can do to help bolster their programs. That's what I'm looking to do.
If you are elected, how do you propose to reduce crime here in Grundy County?
Absolutely. I believe data is valuable, and I believe it's a great resource. Data, if it's tracked correctly, can tell you the where, when, why, and how of why something's happening. It can't always tell you the who. What I want to implement is a data-driven approach to crime safety, and crime and traffic safety, actually, that lets us understand the frequency of crime committed in our communities and the locations. If we can identify the when, where, why, and how, that will lead us to the who of crime or the what of crime. So if we take that data that's available to us through all kinds of resources, the TBI, the Tennessee Integrated Traffic Analysis Network, the Tennessee Department of Safety, Transportation, break that down to where our communities are being affected, implement the resources to where they are needed instead of letting them be wasted, then we can reduce crime. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's a simple plan, it's a realistic plan, and it's affordable because we can do that at no cost, and I'm talking about the analysis of crime.
Okay. I have more questions, but a couple of them I suspect you might have a lengthy answer to.
Okay.
So we need to take a commercial break. Can you hang around with us?
Absolutely, be glad to.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more from CLINT SHRUM, who is a candidate for Grundy County Sheriff, in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. We are talking with CLINT SHRUM, who is seeking the office of Sheriff in Grundy County. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
And let's just jump right back into it,
Sure,
shall we?
Sure.
If you're elected, how do you propose to reduce crime in Grundy? Or wait, I just asked you that one. Never mind. How do you propose to ensure the safety of the inmates in the Grundy County Jail while also ensuring a secure facility?
Absolutely. Everybody knows that we've got jail issues. That has been a key issue to this election, and there's no question about it. The jail is dilapidated. It's old. And not that there's just one person to point fingers to, but time and traffic takes its toll on a building, on a structure. And so when it was built in the 70s, about 71, 72, somewhere in that neighborhood, it was probably sufficient for Grundy County then. But here we are 40 years later, and we're finding out that it's very insufficient, and it's just not been kept up the way it needs to have been kept up. First of all, I think this, because the facility is so old and we're having to ship inmates out, we don't have the ability to do some things that other jails who are up to date do, such as inmate classification. If anybody knows anything about the jail there's an upper pod and there's a lower pod that houses violent and nonviolent, sentenced and non-sentenced inmates. Those need to be classified and separated as such. We can't do that at the jail right now. But by classifying violent, nonviolent offenders, and by classifying those who are sentenced or unsentenced, when movement has to happen, you have to take those guys that are violent first and put them somewhere else to ensure a safer environment. We don't have the ability to do that. And so by not having the ability to do that, we jeopardize inmate safety as well as employee safety. One thing that I want to do if I'm elected is we're going back to what we call prison oranges. Inmates there need to be put back in oranges to be able to be identified as such, so that in the event of escape or something of that nature, they can be more easily identified. Now, that's not to say if they were to escape that they couldn't get out of those. I certainly understand that. But there's a time frame when somebody realizes that an inmate has escaped that they will be looking for them. And so if we're able to identify them as an inmate by putting them back in prison oranges, then I think we make our environment safer and the jail safer. Because we don't have a facility that's up to date, we also have to work on the environment in the jail. Those that we're going to ship out that have to be housed in other locations, and it's not a secret, that's happening now. It will have to happen some more. You can't put 55 and 60 inmates in a 26-bed facility. They're sleeping in the floors, they're sleeping in the kitchen. You just don't have the ability to do that. So we have to make a safer environment. So by doing that, we move those violent offenders out first, and it leaves us with a more nonviolent population. So that's one way that we need to ensure safety there. I do think this, when the new jail is built, that will take away a lot of those problems. We'll be able to classify, we'll be able to put them in the right places, and we'll be able to ensure employee safety as well. The jail's a dangerous place, be it Grundy County, Franklin County, Marion County. The jail is a very dangerous place, and we've got to do what we can do to ensure that. So I think changing the environment, classification of inmates will be two ways that we can do that.
All right. Do you believe the existing Grundy County Jail is safe for inmates and employees and is secure and adequate facility? And what are your thoughts on building a new facility? You've partially answered that.
It's absolutely not a safe facility. It's something's got to be done. I do believe that we need a better facility. I can't say that I believe we need a projected $7 million facility, but I wasn't privy to those meetings and those discussions. But we need a jail. There's just, for inmates, they have rights as well. But we've got employees that have to work in that same place. And so the county needs it. It wouldn't take but one incident out there to really put a hurt on this county. And so we have got to move forward with a jail. Whatever the county commission approves is what we will have to take. They're the ones that's in charge of that. But the next sheriff will have his hands full dealing with the transition into a new facility. But don't necessarily think that I agreed with the 19.5% tax increase to help fund the operation of the jail, not the construction, but the operation of the jail. But it is what it is. That's what we have, and that's what we have to deal with. We have to have another facility. Let me kind of put this back in the previous question. With the new facility where they're going to build it, it'll also help limit inmate movement. When you limit inmate movement or you control inmate movement, then you're able to control a little bit better about what goes on inside the jail, and also in respect to contraband coming inside the jail. Every jail that I have ever visited across this country, I've been to jails in California, I've been to jails in Arizona, I've been to the infamous Maricopa County Jail where Joe Arpaio is. I've seen Tent City, I've seen all of that stuff. There's not one jail that does not have a contraband problem. But in Grundy County, because of the overcrowding, we have to limit some of that inmate movement. Now, when the new jail's built, the location where it's going to be built will help us do that. Right behind the courthouse, transport can be done unless it's a disabled inmate. Transport can be done by walking them over to the courthouse. That is going to help us tremendously. But we have to have a new facility. Once we have that new facility in place, we will be able to control a lot more of what's going on with the inmate population. The county's got to have it. We've got to be prepared for the years to come. You could build a 200-bed facility and probably fill it up in no time. I think the projection's for about a 126-bed facility. So we have to proceed with that. We've got to have a new jail. It's got to happen.
If you're elected, how do you propose to keep people safe on the highways in Grundy County?
That's a good question because that's what I do for a living. I deal with highway traffic safety. We deal with the 3 E's of highway traffic safety, and that's something that we can do here. That's something they're doing now. Last year, well, the 3 E's, enforcement, education, and engineering. Not everybody responds to enforcement. Not everybody responds to education. And I don't deal necessarily with the engineering part of it. That would fall on the Highway Department and TDOT with highway safety. But it goes back to data analysis and finding causation. You can't affect traffic safety unless you know what's causing the problem. So if reckless driving is causing the problem, that's where we need to focus on reckless driving. If distracted driving is what's causing the problem, we need to focus on that. We can do that. Reckless driving mostly has to be dealt with through enforcement. Distracted driving and our teen drivers, that can be dealt with through education at the high school, things of that nature. Last year, Grundy County had 10 fatalities, and that is a lot. We're in the top 10 across the state for fatalities per licensed driver. This year, we're at 0 in regard, well, as of the report yesterday morning. I think I heard that we did have a fatality. But Grundy County has been kind of a roller coaster with traffic safety issues. And it's not the local police department's fault or the sheriff's office's fault, but we're in a place where traffic comes through heavy during intermittent times of the year. We have Thunder on the Rock. We have the craft fair at Bershba Springs. Monteagle has their festival here. Tracy City just got a $600,000 grant to help with this mountain goat trail, and I think Monteagle got some money as well. So we're going to start seeing an increase in traffic just because of that. So we have to monitor causation, and then we have to go after what's causing the problem. And that's how we take care of highway traffic safety. It's simple. It's a simple plan, but we have to be able to institute it in the right manner to be able to affect it.
Is there a way to determine what areas these fatalities are occurring?
Absolutely. GPS coordinates is what does that. And it's left up to the agency to put those in. When you have a traffic crash, and particularly right now with the Department of Safety, if you can put in a GPS coordinate, when that crash report is submitted to the Department of Safety, they plug in those coordinates. You can actually go to the Tennessee Department of Safety and pull up a map, a GIS map, that will tell you where these crashes are located and what's causing these crashes. Agencies that don't put in the GPS coordinates don't have that luxury because that's what tells us where it's happening. One thing that works is just good old-fashioned map plotting, push pins. You have a map of the county or the community. If you have a crash that comes in, you put a push pin there. Maybe it's the color red. If you have crime that comes in, you put a push pin there. It's the color yellow. Then you can start plotting what's going on where. But the technology's there to do it. Some GPS coordinates, plug them into your crash reports, push submit on your crash report, and we can have that. It's real-time data. About 11 minutes, you can see what's going on in your community once that's submitted.
Okay. Finally, why should you be elected to serve as the next sheriff in Grundy County?
I'm glad that question was asked. I've got the experience, I've got the education, I've got the background for law enforcement. I spent my life in Grundy County, and I know the people. I know how to lead, I know how to be responsible with funding, and I've got a desire to see our county do better and progress over the next 4 years and years to come. We've got to have the right leadership in place to do that, and somebody who has a genuine concern for the people of this county. I'm from here. I've lived here all of my life, and I've seen the ups and downs. I remember some of the things that have gone on in the past where this community was down and they rebounded because of the unity. And I think we can focus that unity toward our leadership, to our government, and make a better Grundy County Sheriff's Office. And I hope to be the person that helps lead us over the next 4 years to do that.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it very much.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks.
All right.